What's up, fellas? With another week down and plenty more to go, this specific weekend did not disappoint. We had plenty of big-time wins, massive upsets, some that mattered more than others. Penn State, how do you guys lose that game? James Franklin struck again. This was a college football Saturday for the ages. Some could possibly say that October 3rd through the 4th were the days that all hail broke loose in college football. Speaking of hail, let's start there with the mighty UNLV Rebels heading up to Laramie, Wyoming to face a very tough Cowboys team. What, y'all thought I wasn't going to start with my team? Come on, man. Look at the bully on the screen. As a UNLV fan, I think this is exactly the type of game we wanted to see from the squad. Was everything perfect? No. Offensively, it was lackadaisical at times, but that's not the story of this game. Our special teams finally looked like they figured it out. The fact they were able to flip the script and not block one, but two punts for touchdowns hopefully shows that we are showing pride in that phase of the game. Penalties as a whole went down. That was actually really good to see because we have been one of the most, if not the most, penalized team in the Mountain West this year. But defensively is the story of the game in my eyes. Paul Guenther called a good game. Well, it's an acceptable game, but I mean, for that guy, that's a win. That's as much as you can ask from him. I'll never be a fan, if you guys have seen any of my videos prior to this, of Paul Guenther, but I gotta give him kudos. He knew exactly when to call pressure in the first half, and outside that god-awful third quarter where Wyoming was able to move the ball at will, we weren't overly aggressive, but we're still aggressive enough when we needed it. It was a team effort on defense. I could point out some players like Mumu bin Wahad, who was a baller. Jake Pope looked like the guy that we thought he was going to be from Georgia. Quandarius Keys had a great game at DB. Marcel McDuffie clogging up the passing lanes from the linebacker spot. I could go on and on. There was a lot of playmakers on our defense. It's also surprising that we didn't get a sack, but our pass rush was able to get into Caden Anderson, Wyoming's quarterback's face enough to where he was throwing terrible passes and double coverage and just overall not making the smart play because he was under duress. Like, I'm legitimately happy if we can replicate this style of defense. I have no doubt that we are a top tier team in the Mountain West. If I have to put a negative on it, I mean, offensively, we did not look the sharpest. But in a game with snow or hail, whatever it was wet everywhere. Pause. You got to expect stuff like that. I would have liked us to get Jet the ball more, but at this point, 16 carries is a lot in this offense. Our offensive line played well. We did have a couple of protection issues at times, but we won the game, so it's nothing I'm going to stress on. The only thing I will push back on offense is I felt we had too many routes that took too long to develop, and it ended up having Calandria take too much time to find the receiver that was open, or field conditions just didn't allow for them to beat their man.
AC10
probably had a game he would like to forget. Not that he had any picks or anything, but he didn't have the best QBR, and he was 11 for 20 with only 102 yards. So it's still a win, though. I'm not mad at it. Receiving, though, I think this is a Jaden Bradley game. 5 for 65, really long. I think it was like a 27-yard reception that was pretty nice on the boundary. Either way, I think this game just showed us that this Dan Mullen-led UNLV team is a real contender in the Mountain West. But it only gets tougher from here. Our next 3 weeks are going to make or break the season. We are coming home to face an Air Force team that some might not respect, but, well, we'll get into that later this week. I think this is a better team than their record shows. And after that, I mean, the one we all circled, Boise. We're going to find out what type of team we are. It's just good to know that we can beat the teams we're supposed to, how we're supposed to. But before I leave here, where's all those Mountain West fans saying that we're the worst 4-0 team of all time? I ain't never seen a bad 5-0 team, though. Come on. Just saying. All right, let's move on to the national week in college football. Because even though I was pacing back and forth waiting for the Rebels to play, I was still watching the games. And unfortunately for some fan bases, I may have been watching them, but they definitely didn't show up. Like, I don't know, Penn State? This is conflicting to me because I do hate UCLA with all my heart. But I cannot lie to you and say that I did not enjoy this. I enjoyed every minute of this game. This officially confirmed what I have thought about the Nittany Lions program for a while now. Drew Aller is not a good college quarterback. So the fact that this kid had a ton of draft hype going into this season had always baffled me. But I don't run an NFL team, so I don't know what they can see. But what we saw is exactly why I don't think Penn State was ever a true contender to a national championship. I can't put it all on the quarterback, though. This has to land on James Franklin's head. His bald, shiny head. He can make as many excuses as he wants, which is, again, embarrassing whenever you just lost to one of the worst 0-4 teams in the country. Or at least that's what they were perceived to be at the time. But you can't put blame on your team being young. Everybody's team is young nowadays in college football, and you can't put blame on the time zone difference because everybody in college football now has to deal with that. At the end of the day, State College's biggest issue is James Franklin. And I'm not saying fire the guy because he is successful. He is a 9-3, 10-2 merchant. And in the Big Ten, that is impressive. But we can't pretend like he's ever going to move the needle in this sport. For UCLA side of this, I don't like you guys, but man, you know what? I really don't like you guys. You thought I was going to say something nice. No. Nico, though, I felt bad for him because we battered him earlier in the season and he was just continuously getting hurt. Well, not hurt, but he was about to. At least that's what it felt like. He just was crumbling. It's good to know that somewhere in that shell of what once was a 5-star still has some talent. And now I hope they get on a little bit of a roll so when they play USC at the end of the season, it's actually a pretty cool story that you have 2 Polynesian starting quarterbacks for each school. All right, let's move on to Texas, Florida. This went the way that I thought. I don't know. I just had a weird feeling that DJ Lagway was going to have a Cam Newton-like game, and sure enough, he did. And Arch Manning had a Malik Murphy type of game. I think Texas is done for this year because they still have a pretty tough schedule ahead of them. Florida has been done, but maybe this saves homie's job. Vandy, Alabama, look, that does suck. Pavia ended up getting Pavia. Kalen DeBoer, I don't hate the guy. I just feel bad for him. But still, shout out to them. Michigan, Wisconsin. There was a time in this game I thought Michigan was going to fall flat, but it was very early. It was probably after the first quarter, and then, they kind of took over. So at least next week's matchup is a big-time matchup in the Coliseum. Bryce Underwood is impressive. Virginia, Louisville was an absolute fun game to watch when it wasn't on commercial. This game was always on commercial for me. I don't get why the ACC network likes running double commercials. Anyways, Miller Moss had a great game, but also didn't because he couldn't do what he couldn't do at USC and make the big-time plays in the big-time moments. Louisville could still make the playoffs. They're going to need some help now. Virginia, on the other hand, shout out to Tony Elliott. I like the story. Great story for college football. Purdue, Illinois, Barry was close, and then he wasn't. And then he was close, and then he wasn't. But Purdue should be better than I think people will give them credit for. They're still going to be a solid team. It was a pretty good week for me when it comes to just picking teams. I went 10-3. Against the spread, I was actually pretty awful, though. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, looking at one of those games where I got blown out versus the spread, it actually ties into the Mountain West Roundup. Boise State going to South Bend to play Notre Dame, 28-7. I think this Boise State team is better than what they showed, and ultimately it was closer at some point. Then Notre Dame does what it always does and scores late just to make it look like it was a worse ass whooping than it was. They have no class. It's neither here nor there, whatever. If we go back to Friday, New Mexico, San Jose State. San Jose State got the lead and then never let go. This game really came down to Jack Lane just throwing too many picks at key times. It was really just able to make them throw to San Jose State players. It was just kind of embarrassing for New Mexico. Still, I think they'll bounce back. CSU against San Diego State. This was also an ass whooping. San Diego State, I think, finally put the Rams out of their misery. I don't know how many times I have to keep telling you guys, Colorado State, it's not your players, it's your coach. I'll leave it at that. Air Force Navy, this was a really good game to watch. Air Force might legitimately be one of the toughest 1-4 teams in the country. They needed to convert late, couldn't get a stop. It is what it is.
Shit happens.
And finally, to round out the Mountain West Roundup, Nevada at Fresno State. Fresno State kind of just grinded this one out. They got a 20-point lead in the second quarter and then just kind of held that. EJ Warner had an okay game. Rashawn Luke, 8 carries, 83 yards. Shout out to the Bulldogs. Well, that's all I got for y'all today. As always, if you enjoy stuff like this, think about subscribing. We're building a community here based around college football. Like I said, been fun. Be cool if you joined us. If you want to talk about anything that happened this weekend or anything coming up, leave a comment. I think you should like the video. On to Michigan and Air Force.